Hello again, Mrs. Dominic here. We are going to be starting on our 1 point perspective project, um, affectionately called the Pizza Project by some of you at school, because this is where we are going to start drawing on that pizza round, that pizza circle, if you were able to get one. I do not have a pizza circle that is small enough to fit on the camera, so I'm going to be drawing on a round sheet of white paper that I've cut out for myself. If you were not able to get a pizza round, you are just going to be doing this on a regular white sheet of paper or a sheet of paper from your sketchbook. That's probably the best bet. If you have a rectangular piece of cardboard from like an Amazon box or something, that would be fine too. Either way is good. So your sketchbook is fine, cardboard is fine, rectangle is fine, circle is fine. Okay. In order to do all of the steps you need to today, you're going to want a ruler or straight edge. Okay, it does not have to have the numbers on it. If you don't have a ruler at your house, something like the edge of a folder or a larger book would be fine. I could just as easily use this art workbook, and draw along the edge of that if I needed to. But some sort of straight edge is necessary. You're going to want pencil for sure, eraser, maybe, and then your black permanent marker. Okay, these are the tools you need. So go ahead and grab those now. The first step, whether we are doing circle or square, is to find the middle of the page and put a dot in it. On the rectangle, you just pick a spot and put a dot. Done. Doesn't have to be tiny or big, but just stick it on there. Once you've done that, this page is ready if you do the rectangle. The circle's a little bit more interesting because it doesn't have any straight edges, and we need straight lines to line up our ruler or our straight edge with. So we're going to make some straight lines. We only need 2 of them. Basically what I'm doing is finding the widest point on my circle, connecting those 2 widest points with my ruler, and striking a line. Just a light line, nothing particularly dark. And then I'm turning my circle 90 degrees and doing the same thing, finding those 2 widest points approximately and striking a line again. Okay. I essentially just divided it up into 4 corners, made a plus. This, where our plus happens, the crisscrossing happens, is going to be the center of our circle. It's probably not, in all reality, the center, but it's close. As long as your center isn't way off towards an edge for this project, you will be fine. Okay? All right. I went and reviewed the video that I made last year of this project, and it did a lot. It explained everything really well, but I think it went too fast. So I'm going to break it down so that you have the opportunity to finish these steps in a class period. But we are going to be making front-facing buildings today. On this project, there are 2 types of buildings. There are buildings where you see, here, I'll do it on here. There are buildings where you see only one side of it, and they look sort of like this. So you only see the face of the building, and then there are other ones where you only see the corner of it. Like that. So there's a one-sided building and then a 2-sided building. Today we're going to focus on the one-sided buildings. Now I just freehanded these so they are not in perspective. Do not do that on your page. Okay, you need to follow the 1 point perspective rules. You got to use your ruler and that dot we just made. But this week we're going to do front facing. Next week we're going to do corners, and then we will move on to decorating them from there. Okay? I'm going to work on the circle because I feel like most of you have a circle. It's the same with a rectangle, except instead of lining your ruler up with the plus lines we made in the circle, on your rectangle, you're going to be using the edges of the paper to line the edges of your ruler up with to keep it straight. Okay, that's the only difference, but I'll demonstrate it here in a second. Okay, so in order to make a front-facing building, the first line you have to draw is the roof. So what I do is I'll take my ruler and I'll line it up with the horizontal line across the page. And the building I'm making is going to be going up into the air right here in front of me. So I've lined up my ruler. I know my ruler is straight because I'm using those plus lines as a guideline. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to make a little line. Doesn't matter how wide, you don't need to worry about inches or centimeters or any of that. You're just making one little line. The important part is that it is perpendicular, perfectly perpendicular to that center line. Okay. Once you have the roof, you are going to make the sides, and the sides are going to go at an angle. This angle is going to help show that the building is going away from us, and it also is going to ensure that they meet at the dot. So if you end up with a building that looks like a triangle instead of a rectangle, you've done it right. When I do this, I like to put my pencil on the end of the roof line, wherever that is. Bump my ruler up against my pencil, and then I'll pivot it so that it meets the middle of the dot in the middle of the page. Making sure everything is lined up the way I want it, then I can strike the line with my pencil. Okay, same thing on the other side. Go to the end of the line, bump my ruler up against my pencil, line up the ruler with the dot in the middle of the page, strike the line. Okay, I'm not erasing this line through my building just yet. This is your basic front-facing building. On this project, whether you do round or square, you need 4 of them. You have some options. This is a basic one. You can also make stacked ones like the Sears Tower, and I'll show you that. And you can also make overlapping ones, so it looks like there's a taller building behind a shorter building. Let's try the stacked building. I'm going to go ahead and turn my paper 90 degrees so that my building is on my left and there's a new blank area to the bottom. I'm going to do basically the same thing I did before. I'm going to line up my ruler with that middle line going through the middle of the page so that I know it's straight. And I'm going to make a little teeny tiny mark, even smaller than the last one. When I make a stacked building, I always make sure that I'm doing the top box first. With a cake, you would build the bottom layer of the cake and then put the top on top of it. But for buildings, to make sure they're in perspective, it's easier to make the top box first and then put the bottom one underneath it, because the bottom one is going to end up being a little bit wider, but we don't know how wide it should be yet. Once I have this, my roof, I do the same thing, right? Put pencil on the end of the roof, pivot it so it hits the dot, but I'm not going to go all the way down to the bottom. I'm maybe only going to come down halfway. Do the other side. Okay, done. Now I'm going to make sure that my ruler is even with my roof. I'm going to line it up so that it's perfectly straight along that roof line. And I'm going to pull it down as evenly as I can to keep those lines parallel until I get to a point where I'm like, okay, here is where I want my second roof. This is the top box. The bottom box is going to start right here. When I get to that point, I'm going to draw the line. And this line that I draw is going to be slightly wider than the top box. just slightly. That looks pretty even. It doesn't matter that these other lines hang down some more. We're going to erase and fix anyway. Then I do the same thing I did before. This is a new roof line, so it's the exact same procedure. Bump my pencil up against it, pivot it until it meets the center of the dot, draw the line down. Go to the opposite side of the roof, bump my ruler up against the pencil, pivot the ruler so it meets the dot in the middle of the page, strike the line down to the end. This is a stacked box. If I really wanted to, I could make my little antennas like on the top of the Sears Tower as well. You just have to make sure that they all point at the dot. Right? Okay, how about that building that goes in front of another building? Okay, overlapping buildings. I'm going to start by making the regular ordinary front-facing building. For this one, I'm going to make it pretty tall. I want to make it even taller than it was before, so I'm going to bring my ruler up a little bit and make a little teeny tiny top. Same thing, right? Pencil on the end of the line, bump the ruler up to the pencil, and this time I'm just going to make that regular front-facing building. All the steps until I have something that looks like my first building. Pencil on the end of the line, line it up with the dot, strike the line down. Okay, there's the back building. Next thing to do is make the building that's in front of it. So I'm going to line my ruler up with the center line horizontally. I'm going to very carefully pull my ruler down, slowly, 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 making sure that it is staying parallel with that center line until it is where I want my roof to be. So I want the roof of my new building to be here. Here's my new roof. This is the front building. Gonna do the exact same thing I did before. Pencil on the end of the line, ruler to the pencil, pivot to the dot, strike the line. Ruler to the end of the roof, pencil to the end of the roof, ruler hits the pencil, there we go. Ruler to the dot, pull the line. This building is now in front of that building. It's going to be a little bit difficult to see it, so I'm going to go ahead and erase the insides because I want to only be able to see the building that I want to be there. Okay. I have now, technically speaking, made 4 buildings, but I'm going to add one more over here because if I don't, there will be a massive empty spot on this side of my picture, and aesthetically or like visually, it'll look better if there's something on this 4th side. So I'm going to do that really fast. This time I'm going to make a much shorter building. So I'm going to go to the line up my ruler, very carefully pull it down so that it's staying horizontal and parallel to the center line until I get it to about where I want it. This building I'm going to put here. There it is. A little bit further away this time from the center. Pencil on the end of the roof. Ruler to my pencil. Pivoting to the middle of the dot. Striking the line down. Same thing on the opposite side. Pencil to the end of the roof. Ruler to the pencil. Pivoting to the dot. Striking the line down. Okay. Once you have these 4 buildings, you are good to go. Okay. You can put them in any way you want. If you want to do multiple stacked buildings, fine. If you want to do multiple overlapping buildings, fine. If you want to do all 4 just regular front-facing buildings, that's fine. A little boring, but fine. Okay. Once you've drawn them all, you are going to use your ruler and your permanent marker to only Sharpie the buildings. Okay? You might want to erase the inside lines so that you do not Sharpie them. Leave the plus in the sky because you're gonna still need it for next week. But erase any lines that you don't want to keep. Okay? And then use your ruler when you trace. Okay, it seems a little tedious and it's going to feel sort of slow for those of you who like to blaze through projects, but it is super important for this. If you just randomly willy-nilly try to trace this, it will not turn out straight. If you try to just like freehand this and not use your ruler or a straight edge to go to the dot, it will not look nice and it will not look in perspective. It also is really, really obvious. So, trace with your ruler, line up that ruler next to the line you just did, pull the line. It's going to make all the difference in the world. Does it take a little longer? Yeah, but that's why we're only doing the front-facing buildings today. Okay? If I asked you to do all the buildings today and Sharpie, you'd never get it done. That would be unfair. So, do just the front-facing ones today. Draw them, Sharpie them, all the way around. Now, round people while you're finishing that. Square people. Your job is basically the same. The only difference is that when you are lining up your ruler, you are going to be lining up the short end of the ruler down here with the very edge of the page. That's how you're going to keep it as straight as possible. If you randomly lay down your ruler and it's like going all wonky and you're like, it's a straight line, ding! No, it's not. Look at all this gap you've got over here. It is clearly at a diagonal. You have to line it up that way. If it's easier for you, you can also line it up all the way at the top and then drag down or push up from the bottom. That works. When you're going this way, right? You can use the sides. You can pull this way, keeping it flush with the bottom of the page, and it will stay perpendicular, parallel, whatever way it needs to be. Okay, so for you, what I like to do for the dot is this. I will line up my ruler with the edge of the paper and then strike my line, right? Done. And from here it's the same. End of the roof, dot, down. End of the roof, dot, down. Done. Turn page, do the same thing, right? Got my parallel page, pulling down, 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 keeping it parallel. Top of the roof, right? All the way around. The procedure is the same. Go to the end of the roof line, line up the ruler with the dot. Done. End of the ruler's back on the page. Shorter building. End of the roof, dot, down. End of the roof, dot, down. Okay, it works. I promise. Go slow. So square friends, you're going to go all around this paper. Round friends, go all around your paper. You need 4 front-facing buildings. You need to erase any sort of parts you don't want, and you want a Sharpie. Whatever you do, do not erase the dot. We are still going to need that exact same dot next week, but also don't Sharpie it. Okay? Do your 4 front-facing buildings, Sharpie just those 4 buildings, and call it a day for today. When you're done with your work, photograph it, turn it in. Okay? Good luck. I'm there if you need me. Ask me questions if you get stuck. And I will see you soon. Bye.